people taking my advice, they're people paying me to go in and do works for them. And so now it's not just here's some advice, it's here's all the ads, here's all the scripts, here's all the settings, here's all the targeting, here's all of the sales training, here's all of the Instagram funnel, here's all of the how to set up your pages, here's all of the SEO stuff I did. And I'm just giving it all away to these people, and they're absolutely crushing it. Hey guys, what's going on? Nathan Macias here, back for another video. I'm the founder and CEO of Detail Launch, where we help detailers go from broke and struggling to covering cash in a matter of weeks. And so in this video, we're not going to be covering the traditional detailer advice. We're going to be talking about me, where I came from, what it was like for me growing up, how I've been since I was young, and why I do Detail Launch. Do I do it just to take your money? You'll hear about that in this episode. And so to start out, we really have to understand where I came from, because I get a lot of questions. Did I come from really rich parents? And the short answer is no. The long answer is kind of. So we're going to kind of get into that. And so to start out, when I was young, I actually was born in Homestead, Florida, and we went ahead and lived in Key Largo. My dad was from Key Largo. My mom was from Homestead. So they never really had much growing up. They grew up in two-parent households, yes, but my mom had a stepfather and her mother, and my dad grew up with his two parents, and they were very poor growing up. They couldn't afford a whole lot. They had a very work to survive mentality, and they didn't really have a ton of money when they had us. And so growing up for me, we stayed at my grandma's house a lot. Up until the age of about 4, we went ahead and we were taken care of by them while my parents went out at work and that kind of thing, until we finally moved up to Cape Coral, Florida, which is where I live now. Now, when we moved up to Cape Coral, Florida, we continued to rent, do our thing, month in, month out. And I don't really remember those years very well because I was young up until I was about 12. And when I turned 12, I was in middle school. This is where I really started remembering me coming into even the same mindset I have today. I've always been like this. And so when I was in middle school, I started getting in trouble, but not for the normal reasons. You know, normal reasons are kid gets in a fight, kid gets in an argument, kid's not listening to the teacher. I was getting in trouble for things like in my engineering class, I was going ahead and finding loopholes in the rules and using those loopholes to do better than everyone else, right? And so I was getting in trouble for thinking differently and not subscribing to the traditional path that students were supposed to subscribe to. Shut up, listen to the teacher, do your homework. I'd get my 100%, 98% on my tests, and I wouldn't do any of the homework, right? I would sit in the back of the room and I'd pencil out the math. What is the least amount of homework I can do so that I can actually go ahead and successfully complete this class with at least a passing grade, right? And that's what I was. I was not a good listener and I was not good at school. But one thing I always noticed I was really good at was I was really good at innovating, doing my own thing, following my own ideas. Because even back in 7th grade, the earliest memory I have of really being in love with business and in love with learning how to make money was in 7th grade. I would sit there and I would literally read the little Apple Stocks app. I'd be like, okay, so this one's going to go up, this one's going to go down, just trying to understand the trading thing because I'd read a book about it. And so I was interested in what was going on with trading. And so I was trying to understand how it worked, how investing worked and all of that at the age of 12. And so right as I was finishing up middle school at age 14 was when I actually started my first business. My first business was a pressure washing business. Now, was it a real business? No, but for a 14-year-old, it was. And so what I did was my dad had a 2 gallon per minute, 3,500 PSI pressure washer in the garage. And I would take that pressure washer, I'd walk down the street and knock on neighbors' doors, and I would offer them pressure washing services. I was not good at sales. I had a little flyer I printed out because I was told I had to get a flyer, and it had a picture about before and after of our driveway. Pressure washing driveways, $50. Pressure washing back patios, $30, that kind of deal. And it was just a lot of fun to go out and actually try to make money on my own, because I knew money was this thing that I could use to buy video games, but I didn't really know exactly how to make it, right? Other than to get a job. But I was 14, so I couldn't even get a job. And so I continue to go ahead and do this. I continue to work on this. I continue to learn more and more about how business worked. And I never made much in that business, but what did do well was my next business. When I was 16, I was very much into powerlifting. My parents had made me get started lifting weights with them when I was 14 years old, and I could at CrossFit, and then I continued to lift weights with them, But as I got older, I saw powerlifting content on YouTube, on Instagram, on TikTok, everything. And so I was like, I want to do powerlifting. And so I got into that. I started to get pretty good at it. At my best, my lifts were 600 deadlift, 325 bench, and a 455 squat. And so I was pretty good at it, right? And so as I was on this journey, I was like, you know what would be really cool? Let me make a fitness page to document my journey. And so I made a fitness page to document my journey. But I've always been super nerdy. I've always read in super deep, and I've always wanted to be the best at whatever I do. And so when I was actually going ahead and doing the powerlifting, I didn't just do the powerlifting. In my free time, I was watching videos about it. I was reading scientific articles, learning about the best way to train the muscles. I was learning about rep ranges and nutrition and hypertrophy versus strength and a whole bunch of different things. And so I was like, wow, I'm good at this. And so I started to make informative posts on my Instagram page, which had amassed about 300 followers. And these informative posts were getting a lot of traction. And then I was like, well, I wonder if I could make money from this, because I'd seen other people doing powerlifting coaching. And so at 16 years old, I stumbled into another business where I was doing powerlifting coaching. And I was charging about $200 a month, so not a whole lot. But it was kind of crazy because I was like, wow, you can make money online. That's insane. And so I had a few clients at about $200 a month. I did a couple $1,000 in that business, and it was a ton of fun. I remember it was my first time learning about affiliate and influencer marketing. And so I would actually go ahead and I'd reach out to big names in the space, and they would do like form reviews or technique reviews, or like they'd critique people's Instagram pages and stuff like that. And I would apply my page for every single one, because I knew that if I got traction in their communities and people visited my page, they'd get sucked into my funnel, and then I'd have a customer base, right? And so it was just this amazing first experience to see what business was like, because I got to learn a whole bunch from it. But the issue was my parents didn't really see that as much of a job, right? I was making a few hundred to maybe $1,000 or so bucks a month, which was not bad for a 17-year-old when I stopped doing it. But my parents didn't see it as a real job, and so I had to go get a real job. So I wound up getting a job at Home Depot because that's where my brother already worked. And so after interviewing with Home Depot, which is a basic tell me about yourself, blah, 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 blah. Oh, we take this position very seriously kind of deal. And it was a plumbing associate. And so after working at Home Depot, I managed to stay there about 3 months. But the number one thing that made me realize I can't stay there was actually one day when my manager yelled at me. And I'll explain exactly why. And so one day a customer walks in the front door. He's telling me all about how he needs a water heater. His heater just went out. He's dealing with it, blah, 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 blah. And so I talked to the customer, understanding what he's going through. I'm understanding his problems. I'm like, well, man, so the heater went out of your house? He's like, well, actually it was a rental property. I'm like, oh, how many rental properties do you own? I keep talking to him, and come to find out the dude has 17 rental properties in my city. And so I'm like, okay, you have 17? I'm like, well, when's the last time they all got maintenance or replaced? He's like, well, all of them at the same time. I'm like, oh, shoot. So the other ones are about to break? He's like, no, they're not about to break. I'm like, I mean, this one just broke, right? He's like, yeah. I mean, I'm not an expert. I'm 17, but do you think that the other ones might break at the same time or near the same time? He's like, shoot. I'm like, well, if you're going to replace one, you might as well replace them all. And I mean, it's a tax write-off anyway, so it's not a big deal, right? And so eventually I wound up selling him 17 water heaters that one day. Then a few more people came through and I sold them more and more water heaters. But the point was I sold a ton, right? And I was like, oh, I'm doing good because I'm making money for the company. Like, my manager will be happy. Come to find out later that shift, I'm like, hey, I didn't have a chance to finish restocking these toilet bowl rings, but just toilet bowl rings. I finished everything else. And I was like, but the reason being is because I was in the middle of working and someone came up and I wound up selling him. He came in for one water heater. I sold him 17. My manager's like, how dare you? He's like, your job is to restock the toilet bowl rings. And when he told me that, I realized immediately I can't work a job. I can't do it. Because number one, I'd have to be under someone else's direction like that. I'm not very good at listening to authority in that kind of situation. And so if I see an opportunity where my time would be better spent here, I do not want to go spend it here where it's not spent well at all. And number two, I want to be a part of something where I actually make a difference. And so I'm not making a difference working at Home Depot, right? I'm not affecting anyone's life. Even if I became the store manager and the all-star super manager, grew the store by however amount, I'm not affecting anyone's life except for the investors. And so I didn't want to be a part of that. And so that is when the fateful day came and a TikTok ad popped up on my feed for a Chemical Guys starter kit. And so I was like, you know what? I have a couple $100, it's like $150 to a kit. Let me buy one. So I buy the starter kit from Chemical Guys. Now, when I bought the starter kit, it came in the mail a few days later. I was super excited. And I lined everything up on this bench we had in my house. I took a picture and I was like, new professional detailing kit just came in the mail. Yeah, let's go, or something like that, right? And so I started to offer car detailing services to my friends and family. And I started at $50, just like most people. And I was like, this is freaking awesome. I just made $50 for 2 hours of work. This is way better than Home Depot. And so then I was like, well, $50 isn't a lot. I need $100, right? And so then I started charging $100 and no one cared. So they're like, yeah, it's $100. I don't care. And so I was like, yeah, let's go. And so as we continued, I continued to grow a smaller and smaller customer base, or a bigger and bigger customer base. And it only amassed to like $2,000 a month, but I was making $2,000 a month at 18 years old. I was like, this is crazy. And so eventually I continued to do that. And I got a little distracted throughout. I mean, I was trying different things. I was trying to post in all the Facebook groups. I was trying to market more to friends and family. I was trying to do more and more and more and more and more, but it just wasn't really working, you know? Like I might get some customers, but it wasn't consistent and I couldn't count on it. It was just like, if there happened to be people in that group who were ready to buy, I'd service them. And so while it was bringing me in a few extra customers a month, it wasn't enough to continue me growing. And heck, doing maintenance details for $100 was not enough to keep covering all my bills, right? Luckily, I was making decent money for living at home, and I was going to college, so it wasn't a huge deal. I could just continue to live at home and keep going to college, and my bills would be covered. And so from there, I tried a few different things. I tried drop shipping. That didn't really work out, right? I made a few $100, like $400, but overall I was net negative, like 600. And so it was like, was it really worth it? No. But I learned a lot about advertising and marketing and building a customer experience and customer trust through that. And then after that, I tried an agency and I was trying to market to chiropractors, but I didn't know how to sell, right? I didn't know how to get chiropractors to want to buy my stuff, and I didn't know how to get them to trust me enough to buy my stuff. And so that failed too. And then at that point, I was like, well, it's all in on this detailing thing. It's still making me $2-3 grand a month. I'm only doing it part-time. So like, I wonder how much I can make from there. And so that's when I read $100 Million Offers by Alex Hormozi. I read $100 Million Offers. And when I read that, I sat there for like an hour and I wrote out every single offer I could imagine. And then I just continued to write out every single offer I could imagine. And then I was like, okay, this one sucks, this one sucks, this one sucks, this one sucks. And I kept going until eventually I landed on 2. That month, I plugged those 2 into basic little picture advertisements. I started to run them on my Instagram page, and I generated $15,000 in sales on $300 of ad spend that month. I had just found my first home run offer. And so when I did that, I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. I'm literally printing money. Like, money isn't real. I'm printing it before my eyes. And I was just detailing cars. I was a 19-year-old kid detailing cars. And so I continued to do it, and back to back to back months, 15, 20, 12, 15, 20, 12, right? Just varying in that range. And the only thing stopping me from making 20 every month is I was like, I don't want to work weekends and I want to take a day off throughout the week. And so I was limiting my own income because I was taking extra time because I didn't want to do it. And that's when I made the decision, much to my parents' upsetness, to drop out of college. I was like, I do not want to do this anymore. I believe that I am able to do this. And so in the business world, and so I dropped out. And that's when I got into real contention at home, which not a huge deal for the point of this video, but it's understandable, you know? I mean, imagine your son who's always scored high on his SATs, has always done really well on tests, has huge potential, says, I'm not doing that. I'm going to go wash cars. And so the vision behind it wasn't to wash cars. It was to build a company, a detailing company. But I continued to do it, and I realized I like detailing, and it was simple. I wake up, I go and knock out a couple of jobs, I respond to messages, work leads, and I book them. And then I go home. I made like $500 to $1,000 that day, and I just chilled. I go watch Netflix, drink some soda, go out with friends. I can spend money as much as I want because I'm making so much, which, by the way, is not life advice. Do not do that. Then I realized that So I keep detailing, and then I get a message from this one guy. Super out of the blue, dude messages me. It was December of last year. Hey, I see your page. I see you're super successful. Will you please teach me how to do it? Like, I just started this business. I'm making like $500 to $1,000 a week. I have a wife or a fiance. I have a baby on the way. I have a house. I need to be able to afford these things, and I can't afford them if no one teaches me how to do this. I'm like, I'm sorry, man. I don't feel qualified. Like, I didn't feel qualified. I felt like I wasn't the right person to be asking. And so then he messaged me again. He's like, dude, please, please, please. And I said no again. And then I for some reason, I kept thinking about it, and I kept being like drawn to this message. Like, I literally would be going to bed at night, and every night I'd fall asleep thinking about, oh my God, like, what if that was me? What if I needed the help and someone just said no? And so I was debating, and I talked to my mentor at the time, and told me, he's like, I don't think you're ready, but if you think you can help him, go ahead and give it a shot. He's like, worst comes to worst, you don't help him. You both waste a little time, but it's just a couple weeks at most, right? And I'm like, yeah, you're right. And so I give it a shot. I hit him up, and I'm like, hey, let's meet at this Starbucks. We're going to go ahead and go over some things. And so in that first meeting, I sit down with him, and I don't want to give him my secret sauce because I was running a detailing business in the local area, and I didn't want him to steal my ads, my offers, everything. But I give him enough of him to understand, like, you need to read these books, you need to read $100 million offers, you need to read 48 Laws of Power, a bunch of different things. I'm like, you need to do this homework, you need to watch this coursework, you need to do this, this, and this, right? And so come back the next time we meet about 2-3 weeks later, he's already making an extra few $100 a week, about $500 to $1,000 a week on top of what he was making. I'm just like, okay, that's a good start. That's a good start. Now, what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to actually teach you how to write an ad and write copy. And I'm going to give you the targeting settings necessary so you can actually go ahead and target the right people and actually get your ad in front of the right sets of eyes. And so I teach him the principles of targeting. I teach him the principles of how to write copy and the frameworks I still use to this day. And I used to actually teach my own employees to sell. And so when he went ahead and went through that, he realized that writing an offer was not that difficult. I'm like, I gave him an offer actually. And he went ahead and he took that offer. He plugged it in. He wrote his own copy. He made his own ads. He sent me the ads so I can review it. I'm like, that's good. Run with it. You'll get some sales. And he ran with it. And off of $50 ad spend, he made his first $700 in sales on his own off of ads. And so making that kind of difference in his life, I was like, oh my God, I can do this. I'm like, I have a skill and the marketplace needs it and it can actually help people. I can do this. And that realization really took me on a whirlwind because I reached out to someone else, helped them a bit, and they killed it too. And I was like, oh my God, no, I can actually do this. And so that's when I started to really get deep into learning how to build an education company because I wanted to go ahead and continue transferring this skill to other people. At first, I went ahead and I started to just read books. I started to just watch videos online of how to build an education company and get the generalized understanding, but I didn't actually know how to implement it. That wasn't until one day I saw an ad and I clicked on it. And this guy was telling me all about how he uses Facebook groups to generate tens of millions of dollars a year, blah, 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 blah. I didn't care about that. I just cared, okay, you know how to get clients. I don't. I didn't care about the millions. I just cared about learning how to get a client. And so from there, I continued to message back and forth with him. And he went ahead and he put me on the phone with one of his close friends. And throughout the call, I'm explaining exactly what I do. He's telling me what they do. I'm like, oh, well, that's pretty cool. Yeah, it's similar to what I have going on for Instagram, just on Facebook instead. And he's like, yeah, very similar. And I'm like, okay, cool. I'm like, so what's the price? And he tells me $10,000. And I nearly shit myself, okay? I'm like, my heart. Because for reference, I had been making money, but I had been blowing it as fast as I could make it. And so I didn't have much left in the bank. I had about 15 grand. And so with that 15 grand, I said, I don't know. It just sounds like too much money. And I just sat there silently. And he explained to me, he's like, look, we all live life with one of two pains. Is it cool if I tell you? I'm like, yeah. He's like, we live life with the pain of failure or we live life with the pain of regret. And frankly, if you choose, you know whether or not this is right for you. You can either choose the pain of failure and maybe you invest the money, it doesn't work out, and oh well, you're down 10 grand. It's 10 grand. You'll make it back in your life. Or you can live with the pain of regret. Choose to keep the 10,000 bucks, which will it materially affect your life in any way if you don't have an extra 10,000 bucks in your account? Well, no. Okay, so you could choose to keep the 10,000 bucks, have $10,000 more in your bank account, just a slightly bigger number, and you can look back in 5 to 10 years and say, I wonder what would have happened if I just chose to take that next step. And that was the day I realized I'm never going to live with the pain of regret again. I'm going to choose what I want to do. I'm going to move forward confidently, and I'm going to continue to and just give it my all. Because at the very worst, I fail. If I fail, so what? It doesn't make a difference in my life, and I'll have another chance to try again. And so I go forward with it, and pretty quickly, I have everything I need to be able to start making a company. I start to do the work on it, and what I realized is this dude's systems didn't work the best for my business, right? He wanted me to build a mass market, advertise to everybody how to start a detailing business and make $1 million a year kind of business. And I was like, no. I'm like, I want to help this specific group of people. Detailers stuck between $3,000 and $10,000 a month, and I want to help them significantly increase that very fast. And so take them from maybe 3,000 to 20,000, or maybe 5,000 to 25,000, you know, or even just 10 to 15. Because extra $5,000 a month, that's $60,000 a year. And so I very quickly realized I needed to innovate on my own. And I went 3 months of doing this, and I had stopped for some background. When I joined the group, he told me to stop detailing and do this full time because I was so good at helping other detailers just based off of the results I'd been getting. And so I went 3 months, no income, living off of my last $5,000. And while I was living at home, I still had my car payments. I still had my insurance. I still had a bunch of other things. And so the money was quickly fading away. And as I'm sitting there, as I'm about ready to give up, I'm thinking about just going back to detailing, make it easy, 15 to 20 grand a month, you know, bring in employees. I'll take like 5 to 10K profit, and I'll just let them actually run the business. I signed my first client. And then next thing you know, the next week I signed another. And it continues to grow. But the craziest part is these people are getting better results than the people I did it for free. And the reason being is that they're no longer just people taking my advice. They're people paying me to go in and do work for them. And so now it's not just here's some advice. It's here's all the ads, here's all the scripts, here's all the settings, here's all the targeting, here's all of the sales training, here's all of the Instagram funnel, here's all of the how to set up your pages, here's all of the SEO stuff I did. And I'm just giving it all away to these people, and they're absolutely crushing it. And so that kind of brings us to just before Monday, where I've signed my first few dozen clients. I'm now able to go ahead and move out. I'm doing my own thing. And I start to realize very quickly, the hardest thing about this online game is actually building trust with the audience. And so that's when I dive into making content like this. I want to share my story. I want to give you something to look at and be like, damn, this kid really went from making his first 300 videos and trainings in his mama's basement bedroom to having his own place, having a nice car, enjoying the nicer things, and having helped generate hundreds of thousands of dollars in student revenue. Because at the moment, we're sitting well over $100,000 a month in student revenue. And my goal is that by the middle of next year, we're at over $1 million a month in student revenue, which means that our students are collecting more than $1 million a month. And so I think that's doable. I think we're going to absolutely crush it. And I see absolutely no reason to do it. Because when you have the right systems in place, when you have the right marketing and sales in place in your detailing business, money's not real. Money is just something that comes in when you run your ad and you sell the person. For example, we had Joey went from $600 to $15,000 a month in less than 90 days. And that is a more extreme result, but it's totally doable for anybody. You just have to know what to do, and you have to actually execute on it. And so I think $1 million a month in student revenue is totally doable by mid next year. And I think we're going to absolutely crush that number. And so I'm excited to have you all along on the journey. I'm excited to let you guys see this channel, myself, and honestly just see the whole journey from broke high school kid to successful detailing business owner to helping other detailers achieve the same, if not greater success, which we do have plenty of students doing better than I ever did. I'm excited to have you guys along on the journey. I'm excited for your success. I'm looking forward to it. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.